During the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, Myrtle Baptist Church reflects on their past and how MLK affected their lives.
Racial injustice is not limited to any particular geography. We knew what was going on in the city, we knew what was going on throughout the United States, and we knew we had problems in Newton also. So the leaders, and very interesting, it was mostly the women and their various organizations, the Daughters of Myrtle, they had involvement, they had a buy-in, they were committed. And they passed that on to teenagers. Myself, we were all encouraged. We were encouraged to get involved, We were encouraged to join the NAACP. I myself was a leader in the NAACP Middlesex Youth Council. So our heads, these women always turning our heads to the TV, always turning our heads and making us clearly aware of what was going on with the struggle. They knew the struggle, but it seemed like it had culminated. And there was a battle at hand, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was involved, and they wanted us to understand what was at stake. Dr. King was studying at BU School of Theology. And Myrtle Baptist had a policy of opening the doors to any and all pastors who chose to come and work on their practicum and to preach and to take up the pulpit. It was very, very open, very liberal, very we love you, come in. And there was no exception for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So he came. And certainly the culture, his culture, Church of the Culture, they meshed very easily.
When Dr. King was assassinated, the pastor of the church at that time gathered the community together to make space. People weren't sure what was going to happen.
What can we do was the question. So someone said, well, let's have a memorial. Let's pay tribute to him by having a nice, good old musical service in the church. And let's open the doors to the church and let people come in and participate, because this is going to be the celebration, celebrating the life and pointing the direction of what else needs to be done.
As time went on and the King holiday became an official holiday, the church continued to celebrate or sort of resume celebration and commemoration on the Sunday prior to the holiday itself. And during that time, other members of the community who didn't go to the church or maybe didn't even live in Newton would come and attend that Sunday morning service. And that grew over time as interest grew. More members of the community came to participate, and interest being a wonderful thing, but space being something very finite physically. Over time, the interest and participation grew to the point that the church could no longer hold the service.
Let's make this a citywide, because that's how deep the feeling was, very deep. People of faith across the city, people, they wanted to participate. They felt the need to participate.
I think that we have an obligation to really, when we remember the past, to remember the truth of what happened. The celebrations themselves don't necessarily do anything, right? You learn that rituals of whatever kind, whether they're commemorative celebrations or religious rites of some kind, or just personal or cultural, any kind of social rite, it only has the power you invest in it. And so I think that when we pay, we honor, we give honor, we remember the past, we have an obligation to remember all of it, and then to apply what came from those experiences to our current context. I mean, I think that one of the things that is true is that we don't live in the same time of some of the climate that was going on in the 60s, and even later during some of the injustices that inspired Reverend Haywood to act in the ways that he did. But that does not mean that there's nothing happening now. And so I think that we push those things forward, and we really honor the past by taking what we learned, what our elders and our ancestors learned in the past, and applying that to our current context, knowing that we still have very much work to do, and that work is vital, is critical, is important, and it calls on all of us to really take that seriously.